Let's say aloha to Brett Perkins, former LVO champion. Thanks, man, for joining us. Really appreciate it.
Thank you for
With your
having me.
Eagles hat on.
We got a brand right next
Just
to
want
you. Number one seed. No.
number one. That's just the way you like it.
Yeah.
All right, let's talk LVO. Let's go back to, was it 2017 you won LVO with Demons and Renegades, and we were just before we started recording talking about the reason you came up with that list, which is a really valid reason given the environment you were playing in. So explain the thinking behind Renegades and Demons going into 2017 LVO.
So the number one rule with Renegades is that you could fire at units into combat. You can even target your own units. And as we know, that whole edition was Death Stars. I had an actual hatred. Hate's a strong word, but I hated Death Stars because I didn't like the whole mechanic. With that being said, I did have what I'd like to call a survival star in the Screamers. The Screamers weren't meant really to kill; they were just meant to stay there and stay alive and keep you from falling back. Might have been why we
Right.
fall back so easily now. It might.
Are there any super memorable games or moments from that run at LVO?
So yes, that first game ended up being a Table War Hawaii player, and now I'm in Table War Hawaii. So they always give him crap for meeting me around one and getting beat by me and quitting out. But then I did have a couple of memorable ones. I did face Andrew Gagne. That's the only time we matched up, and we actually fought to a draw. So I did not win every game. We fought to a draw in
Right.
that round, and then I did face Matt, who eventually won the ITC that year. Unfortunately, I didn't see him until the semis. I was confident my list could take on his orcish AdMech, but I didn't see him until the semis, so it wasn't quick enough to jump ahead of him in points.
On the subject of Matt, I feel like you tabled him in that semi. Like that was a pretty convincing win against the guy who was like number one or went on to be number one and win the ITC. That had to feel pretty good.
Oh yes, as I said, I was pretty confident. I just needed to find him, and I unfortunately just the powers that be, the algorithm, I just didn't link up to him until the semi, so he was able to maintain first place.
Yeah. Talk me through that game with Brandon. We've spoken to him as well, obviously as part of the series, and that loss really served him well in 2019 when he came back and won it. But talk us through that game, that final game with Brandon, and how that played out for you.
So if I remember correctly, I believe Brandon had the first. He had the first setup. So I had a long shot charge to lock up his star. I did a little bit of counter deployment, and I had a long charge for the screamers to lock up his star, and I managed to make like a 10-inch charge. Unfortunately for him, and then as you know, the mechanic with the grimoire, I can re-roll with Fate Weaver. I had Fate Weaver on my list then with the re-roll, and I managed to make that roll. And we even like once I locked up the star, it stayed locked for the game. It was a pretty much a
Right.
foregone. It was probably the quickest decided game because once I locked it in, um, unless I failed the grimoire, he wasn't coming out of that combat.
When you look at the list of people who've won the LVO, there are some in the world of 40k, some real big names in the, some celebrities. It's kind of nice to have your name on the trophy along with those people, right?
Oh yes, I managed to go out to Nova, and I was second to one twice at Nova, and so
Right.
including once that year, and so getting my first big win of the season at the right time. I had a lot of
Yeah.
second places, third places that year, and then finally jump into the first place.
Post LVO, when you're a winner, does that put extra pressure on you to do well at tournaments?
Yes, I feel as if people always come in hard. Sometimes if you're running into players in the midfield and they recognize who you are, they tend to play, unfortunately, so a little more aggro because they're amping up to face this match. And if you're just trying to be laid back, have fun, and roll some dice, it can kind of throw you off sometimes.
Right. People get all aggressive and they want to take down the big gun, right? They know the sharpshooters come to town and they want to take them down. It's funny. So, and once you've won an LVO, also you kind of you get invited to do things like podcasts and go on stuff and help people out. And was there a little bit of that post LVO 2017?
Yes, I actually run the competitive 40K Facebook group right now. I'm the lead admin for that group, and we're
All right.
almost 15,000 strong now.
Yeah, fantastic. It was a nice little plug for the group as well. Get people involved in the group. It's a great. I didn't realize I'm part of that group. It's a great chat.
Yeah.
What if I had to ask you for a dark horse army? Because very often in the top 16, top eight, you get one sort of random army that just because kind of similar to what you did, people design for what they expect to do well, and they just kind of get on a good run, and they come up against a thing that they designed to beat. Is there a dark horse army that you can kind of see getting into that sort of top 16, top eight, and maybe going on from there?
I think orcs. Orcs are
Wow, yeah,
underestimated, and I even ran into orcs. Of course, those may or may not have been piloted by a very good general. Uh, but I ran into orcs at the Kansas City Open, and that's what I ended up losing to. And Goth orcs came across the board and just punched me in the face before I could do anything about it. But I think
yeah.
orcs could be your dark horse army that goes all the way, and people just don't really expect it to do well.
Well, we know Mr. Naden's bringing orcs,
That's
and
who beat
he's
me.
pretty good.
That's
Yeah,
awesome. It's the only
that's what I
matchup ever, and
figured.
I was like,
When you, if you're a guy, excuse me, going into something like an LVO or any tournament really, and you rock up to the table, and on the other side of the table is a Nunavati or a Naden or a Lennon or a Harpster or a whoever it might be. How does that affect you mentally when you go in? Are you the kind of person that can just go, doesn't matter who it is, I'm playing my game, or is that kind of a bit of a hurdle for you to mentally overcome?
I actually, it's less of a hurdle to me. To me, I know this player knows how to play the game, and we can have a very clear intent-driven game. We don't need to like,
Right.
hey, does this guy understand this rule, or do I need to explain this thoroughly? No, we both know how to do things, and we're both going to be very professional with how we conduct the game. Sometimes when you're playing in the mid tables, you get people from very different backgrounds, very different ways they approach the game, and then you inadvertently will upset somebody by something that you consider as normal.
Well, listen, thanks so much for chatting to us. I really appreciate it. And when do you think you're going to be back at the LVO? February's kind of a busy month for you these days.
I will be back
So,
next year, unless I somehow
okay.
plan something out in the next 4 months that brings me back down again.
All right.
Because I have 3 kids in February,
Okay.
so we'll see.
Yeah. So let's just not make that happen again. Good luck for the next time you're there. Good luck for this weekend. And thanks so much for chatting to us. Really appreciate it.